Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Alrighty, here we are, episode 1. Looks like the sun is shining in Penrith today. I'm here with someone who's become a good mate, MG. Welcome, buddy.
Hello, Sammy. Yes, the sun is always shining in Penrith, brother.
Yeah, which is a good omen for today. Round 2 today. We got the Roosters over at CommBank, our new home for the next, next 2 to 3 years?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
Our next, so for the next 2 years, we'll be calling Parramatta home, which is a little odd, but I think wherever Penrith have called home for the last 5 years or so, they've made it work. So if they were able to do it in Queensland, can't see why it'll be any different in Parramatta. But you heading out to the game tonight?
I am actually. I'm calling the game for 2GB tonight, so I'll be there from about 6 o'clock. And mate, yeah, I suppose it's one of the big sticking points in making it 5 in a row is the fact that your home crowd is everything. And if this game was at Bluebet Stadium tonight, it'd be sold out in 3 or 4 hours. The unknown tonight is, I suppose, how many will turn up, how many will travel. And it's a depleted Roosters team as well, so there won't be many there from their side of the fence either. So yeah, it's just these are the little tangibles you've got to negotiate when you're in a position that Penrith are, and obviously they've never been more hunted as a rugby league team than they are now. Everyone wants to beat the premiers, and when you've done it 4 years in a row, which is just every time I say that, I just can't really fathom the fact that they have done that in the modern age, which is astonishing, to be honest. But, there's plenty of buses and trains.
It's not too far.
Everyone says that. Everyone says it, but it's a good 45 minutes to Parramatta.
Yeah.
With traffic, and it's not just next door, even though people say we are neighbours geographically, I suppose, but we are probably closer to Campbelltown than, probably the same distance to Campbelltown as it is to Parramatta. So, Penrith, we are isolated out here, and that's what I suppose drove us to our first accolade back in the 90s, because, everyone just kind of used to think that we were that team out there and brushed us off, but we kind of snuck under everyone's guard. And this current team doesn't have that luxury. Now they've got to travel every time they play, inverted commas, a home game. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, the last few years, they've basically been every team's grand final during the regular season. And they've shown they're adaptable. They can go on the road. They had pretty well just as much success these last few years on the road as they have at Penrith. And if one thing this team's really proven is that they're adaptable. They took the going all the way back to like the Queensland COVID bubble thing, took that in their stride, made that work. Hardly lost a game over in Queensland. And then, I can't see why they won't be able to make this Parramatta thing for the next couple of years feel fairly normal. Like, obviously, I'm going to really miss Penrith Park, the old Penrith Park, and I'm sure whatever they end up doing probably be cool. But there was definitely something nostalgic about it, like just the
well, it's the pre-game as well. Like a lot of the Penrith fans would go to the club, or they go across the road to the Paceway and have a few schooners before, or a glass of wine before the footy. And now I suppose that's different as well. So, these are the things that the fans will be looking at, saying, okay, is there a pub in Parramatta that we can make our own, that we can go there and meet up before a game? Or because it's a big part of rugby league is the community side of it. And the community side is that you get together before the game and talk about what's going to happen, and then maybe after the game as well. But that's another tangible that's entered the fray. And as you look, I've got no doubt as well on the park. They're true professionals. If you think you're going to go to Parramatta and play against Penrith and they're not going to give 100%, well, you're mistaken, because they are a formidable outfit. That's just the other stuff that, the fans who basically Ivan Cleary said yesterday that how much he loves them and how much he hopes they keep turning up. And you know what? A lot of them will. A lot of them will. But some of them it's just impossible to get there. So that's part of their success, because part of their success is that they needed a bigger ground to hold more people, because they have gotten so good. So but yeah, on the field, I'm not worried about how they'll play. They've got, 4 of the top 10 players in their side in the competition, with Cleary and Yeo and Edwards and Martin. In my opinion, them 4 players are in the top 10 players in the NRL, and to have them in the one side is a massive bonus.
Yeah, could say 3 of the top 5 players. Maybe maybe 4 of the top 5 players.
Yeah, well, they could definitely
on their day,
definitely
like
top
Liam
10.
Martin in Vegas, Liam Martin on that grand final day, like he's putting in
Liam Martin in Origin last year.
Exactly.
Yeah, Liam Martin's just gone next level in the last 12 months.
Yeah, and I've heard a few people saying during the week as well that this has been his best preseason to date, which is a pretty scary proposition as well. If someone like Mardo, who's already been, he's a shoe-in for Origin every year. He's making the Kangaroos squads. He just won his first Clive Churchill medal. And if someone like him's off the back of all of that success, put in the best preseason of his career to date, that's signs that could go to a whole other level this year. And if Vegas is anything to go by, he was an absolute standout. He was just shot out of a cannon from kickoff, and he just never really slowed down.
So he done the same thing against Parramatta in 22. Him and Moses made it personal against RC, Regan Campbell-Gillard and Isaiah Papali'i, who finds himself now in the Penrith jersey, and Junior Paulo. And it seems to be the bigger the game, the bigger he plays. Last year's Origin series, it was amazing, and all last year, he was our most consistent forward, our most damaging forward. When it comes to the brutality of the game, obviously Yowie and Mitch Kenny and everyone's got their own little forte in what they do. But as far as every team needs an X factor, and I think Liam Martin is definitely Penrith's X factor.
100%. What do you like to see out of the team in round 1 or in these early round games? What is it that you're looking for out of the teams? Like, obviously you see teams like Melbourne and Manly last weekend just absolutely run up the scoreboard. It's not really Penrith's game to be doing that kind of stuff. What is it that you like to see out of the boys in these early round season games?
Oh, you want to see that the pre-season counted. You want to make sure that, the pre-season, which goes from, with Penrith, it's different because so many of them were in rep sides, and when you make grand finals, most of them wouldn't have come back till, late December, early January. So you just want to make sure you see the fruits of your labour are not wasted, and them early games, the timing is out and all that type of stuff. So you've got to rely on your fitness. And when you've done the work, you get so much more confidence out of that in a rugby league game. And you watch Penrith play this year and how many times opposing teams that, bend over and put their hands on their knees. We never see Penrith do that. You never see them do it. And they do the little things right. I think Penrith, and I could be corrected on this stat, but I think they do something like, 8 or 9 decoy runners a game more than any other team in the competition. That means they're this very unselfish rugby league team who try and make their other players look good, and they do that perfectly. They played against the team, and in that first round against the Sharkies in Vegas, they were ready. The Sharks were ready. And I dare say that Sharks beat any other team on that day, because when you're travelling operations in the off season, to major players, to 3 of them players we just spoke about, I think Liam Martin had a bit of a clean up, and Nathan's shoulder was much publicised, and so was Dylan Edwards'. So when you're on the back of that and not playing trial games, you just want to see completion. You want to see, that the cobwebs have been flicked away, and the trial form is gone. And we definitely saw that with Penrith. We definitely saw that with Manly. We definitely saw that with Brisbane, and we definitely saw that with Melbourne. So they were the four teams in the opening round who's kind of shone for mine. And it's such a fast track season that all of a sudden you're in round 10 and you haven't blinked yet. So you just got to make sure that you you stick to your game plan, you don't drop balls, and you kick well. And it sounds easy, but trying to implement that when you've got a team on the other side of the field trying to bash the crap out of you and trying to do exactly to you what you're doing to them. And it's a massive arm wrestle for 80 minutes, and whoever gets that arm wrestle wins 99% of the game. So Penrith have done that in the last 4 years. Their attention to detail has been significantly better than other teams, and their unselfishness is something that shines.
I think I've had a moment going into like round one of every season for the last few years now where I've thought, I wonder if this will be the year where they're a little off the pace. Like probably going all the way back to like 2022, like after that first grand final win where it like just making it back there after they lost that 2020 grand final to Melbourne, and you just think maybe this was our chance, this wasn't meant to be, and grand finals just don't come around that often, or they're not meant to. And I remember after 2020 thinking, I'd love to get them back there. I just love to see this group win one because I really feel like they deserve it. And it was so surreal when they actually got back there in 21 and went that next level and won it, but we weren't there. So every year you go into the next one. I'd love to actually see it in person. I'd love them to be able to do it again. And you go into these early round games and you think, are they going to have it again? Are they? There's no way they're going to be able to keep coming out with that intensity. And I've just found myself every season like having a moment where I'm like I sort of chuckle to myself a bit, like I can't believe they're doing this again. And it's not always pretty in round one. It's not what Manly and Melbourne did on the weekend was clinical, and the point scoring that's obviously very exciting and fun for their fans to see the team running up the score. We're never like that in round one. Our attack's never polished, but it's just as soon as you can see like that first 20 minutes of the game and you've already got the opposition on their haunches, on their goal line, and you're just pinning them down there. And I've just found myself kind of laughing to myself that, wow, they're doing it again. And it was the same in Vegas. You thought, surely not again. Like there's so much changeover. Fisher Harris being gone, I thought was, like, I don't know. We say it every year that the guy that left that year was the straw that broke the camel's back or whatever. But again, I just remember kind of laughing to myself watching that game. Like, I can't believe it. I can't, like, you're seeing what Liam Martin's doing, seeing the way they're rushing off the line, seeing the way they're pinning Cronulla inside their 20, and thinking, I've seen enough. Like, and that's kind of how I've felt. Like last year it was Melbourne in round one. I think we lost like 8-0, something like that.
8-0, it was.
But it was a real low scoring, grinding game, and I thought, perfect. I've seen what I need to see, that this team, they still want it. And the year before it was Brisbane. So ironically, the last two seasons, they played their opening round games, lost both of them to who they ended up playing in the grand finals. So maybe that's a good omen for Cronulla. I thought they were really, they showed a lot more resolve than they've shown in years past. I think in previous seasons, that Cronulla team, we've watched those games. We win those games 26-0, 28-0. I think we had a 40-0 against them last year. Yeah. But this year they got punched. They got back up. They actually got that. They got that first try and sort of probably got a little bit of momentum from that. But we kept going at them, and they were coming back at us. So it was probably a good sign for Cronulla that they're a different team this year from who they've been in years past.
Yeah, no doubt. And well, they had an opportunity to win the game. They had Jesse Raymond had an unmarked winger. If he passed the ball, they score. Trindle got caught in the fifth tackle, 5 metres out. A repeat sack could have been anything, but you play what's in front of you. A great team always beats a team of greats, but Penrith seem to have both. They've got a great team ethos with Mitch Kenny sets a lot of the barometer with his defensive line speed, and I thought Jack Cole was fantastic in Vegas. He's shown that in the off season. He's worked on his defence, and it's paid off. And
I didn't know he could hit like that.
I don't think Jack Cole thought he could hit like that. So
Far out.
he's defensively sound, and that's all you've got to be. That's the first thing Penrith look at in rugby league players that I can see over the last 4 or 5 years is number one, fitness. If you're fit, you'll be thereabouts, and then it's defence. Everyone in rugby league can run a ball and pass a ball, and that's the easy part of the game. The hardest part is defending, and that's what they keep an eye on. I think Matt Cameron was quoted last year somewhere when someone asked him about what do you do about when you're looking at a new recruit, what's the first thing you look at in them, and he said how fit they are. When they get to Penrith, we test them out, and so look, that's if you're a Penrith fan, you always got to know that whoever's playing in first grade is there because he's fit and he's part of this juggernaut of a system that just keeps on spinning. It's surreal. Honestly, it is. It's mind blowing. I know all I heard about growing up was the Dragons and how good they were in the 50s and 60s, winning 11 comps in a row. And well, in 30 or 40 years' time, everyone was saying we're talking about Penrith, how they won 4 comps in a row, maybe 5, in an era when they lost 2 or 3 players a year and they lost a coach here and there every second year, but somehow they still did it. So there's a dog squealing at the back here. Can you hear that?
Can't hear it.
Oh, good.
What type of dog we got?
No, I don't know. It's over the fence. just a little bit. So yes. So yeah, look, it's phenomenal, mate. It's obviously Ivan and his coaching crew have got to take the big rap. I think it's the most settled the board have ever been for a long time as well. They say that the fish rots from the top. Well, Penrith haven't even looked like that in the last 7 or 8 years. They just have the stability from within, and that's a sign of strength when you can lead from the front office. That is because the players, they get a smell of any discontention or disconcertion, and it becomes a problem for them. They don't like having.
It's hard to get out of that cycle.
Yeah, you don't like worrying about anything but rugby league.
Yeah.
If there's politics going on in your club, that there's a lot of clubs in the land that it's happening to, and the first one that comes to mind is Parramatta. There's a reason they haven't won a comp since 1986 because of the instability. They've got a junior nursery almost as big as Penrith, but they just can't seem to put it together.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a very focused and a very comfortable group where they just seem to be like, once you kind of tick those boxes, like you were saying before about first thing, say Matt Cameron, CEO, and I'm sure the coaching staff, what they're looking for, it's all the effort area stuff. And as soon as you fall in line there, and we're seeing it with, like someone like Jack Cole, who had an up and down, I guess last year was his rookie season, and it was an up and down
injuries,
season. Yeah, just moments like that where he definitely showed signs of being a really important first grade player. Like his game against Cronulla last year was probably his sort of breakout game where they were playing definitely obviously without Cleary. I think it might have even been him and Schneider, or maybe it was him and Luai, but he carved him up. And to show, like, it just looks like where he's spent his off season developing is in all that effort area stuff, and he just looks like I'm sure he's bulked up a bit. Defensively, he suddenly looks like he's going to be a rock. And I'm sure that's all they want outside of Cleary.
That's all they want.
Yeah.
That's all they want. That's all they want. Points will come. Even if Nathan, say, wasn't playing against the Sharks, the biggest question is then how do we score points? Because when Nathan didn't play last year, Jerome was there to pick up the slack. But I'm pretty confident that even though Blaise Talagi has never been in a system like Penrith, I think I watched him in New South Wales Cup last weekend, and even though he was a little bit rusty, just by the way he plays footy, you can tell he's a great rugby league player. He might be in that group of coming to Penrith and not realising. But don't forget, he came with a big injury as well. Yep. So he kind of started on the back foot. He probably started in rehab, and that's never a good thing when you go into a new club. But the kid can play, and he's going to be special for Penrith when they need him most this year. You can just feel it.
Yeah, he's a kid. He's a kid, and we've still got
He's a baby. He's a baby.
we've still got kids coming through, and that's the most exciting thing about all of this. Is you look at this team on paper now, and you think,
Yeah.
with like this young nucleus coming through, like this group could peak in like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because they're a contender again, one of the top couple of premiership favourites again this season. But you look at them on paper and think, well, with this next young crop of guys coming through, you look at a Jack Cole, Luron Patea, Case the McLean brothers, Blake Talani,
Lindsay Smith, and
Liam Henry. Like there's a
Liam
whole
Henry.
batch of young kids coming through. Like I'm particularly excited to see what happens with say like Luron Patea. Like he's only just turned 19 or 20.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the biggest guys on the squad.
He could be the next Moses.
And he looks like he's a Fisher Harris, Moses hybrid sort of front rower, and he's just still, again, nowhere near where he's going to be in a few years' time. So there's so much to be excited about with prospects that I can't even imagine what the next few years could be like if all of those guys develop the way we've seen the kids that have come through so far. Like that's probably one thing that every year there's going to be all the media guys come out and say, oh, no, Penrith can't...
of course.
They can't get through without... they've lost Api Coruscant and Viliami Kickout. There's no way they'll be able to get over that. And then there's... they've lost Stephen Crichton and they've lost... Every year there was...
Matt Burton
Matty
and
Burton.
Capewell.
Every year there was like a loss that we weren't going to be able to get over. But the thing that they're never... Everyone will quote, but Penrith have a good junior nursery or whatever, but they don't actually... They don't know who those guys are. So, like, if you'd said 3 years ago, we're going to lose Stephen Crichton, but Paul Alamotti is going to be one of the best players in the grand final, you'd say, who the hell's Paul Alamotti? Like,
that's right.
And years prior, it was, like Isaac Tago's coming through. And it's like, you mean the kid that's just running around on the sideline and he doesn't actually play in the games and he's going to become one of the most important players on the squad as well? Like, every year, these young guys, they come in and they develop, but they develop fast. They come in and it doesn't take them long and they're up to scratch. Like you see the way Casey McLean looks now physically, like his shoulders are broad. He looks like he could be a second rower soon. He's so...
I think he's going to be... I think he's our next critter. I think he'll be in the centres and I think he's our next critter. I saw Critter in his first grade debut back whenever, 19 maybe.
I believe it was 5 years ago today.
Wow.
And it was against the Roosters.
And
I'm pretty sure that game...
He came on the field.
Yeah.
And didn't touch the ball.
That was the game. So I'm pretty sure his debut was him running on the field. He was wearing number 14, came off the interchange, scored a try in about 15 seconds.
That's the one.
Ran on the field. They had a little shift play, and all of a sudden he ends up with the ball. That was his debut, and that was 2020.
Okay.
And it was, I looked this up, it was literally this day 5 years ago.
Wow.
And that game started that, what are we on now? Is it 11 straight games we've won against the Roosters?
Yep.
That was the start of it. And I would say that game is probably like the pivotal turning point in this team's fortunes. Like that game, that was defending, I think it was round 2 or round 3, defending champion Roosters.
Yep.
Young team, had no idea what to expect. We hadn't even made the 8 the year prior.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you see all these young kids just come out and absolutely carve up, beat the defending premiers, and it felt like that was a turning point for the club.
I think they've undertaken a lot of turning points. You know, it's and all them turning points could easily be lost in the ethos if you just let them be turning points and not follow up on them. But that's just words can't explain, to be honest. It's when we won 1, we tried to win 2, it was so hard, and then you see Roosters winning 2 and trying to win 3 and be like Parramatta in the 80s. When Penrith did that, it was a big deal, and then they won another one, so now they're on their own outside of the Dragons. So if they happen to win 5 this year, well, they go into rare air. They already are in rare air. It's just a matter of how rare it gets. I mean, it's how far can this team go? It's you wouldn't put any handcuffs on them because you know that they'll just break out of it and make you look silly. So look, tonight's one of them games which could be anything. It's the Roosters. I'm actually feeling sorry for the Roosters at the moment because and I never thought I'd say that because it's not that I hate them or anything. I just, the powerful clubs. I think a lot of, Melbourne, Penrith, and Roosters for the last decade have dominated, and all of a sudden the Roosters find themselves on their knees, and it's not a good place to be. So,
No, the one thing for a club like the Roosters is it's always a little easier to get out of the mud than it is.
They'll get out. They'll get out of it.
It won't take them much. You look at where club, like how much work it's been for. Even look at the Bulldogs, like how long it took for them to get out of where they were, and hopefully for the Tigers fans, like maybe they're in a transitional period where they're going to start to turn the corner. I haven't quite seen it yet, but maybe. But yeah, you look at the Roosters, like like I said, that was 5 years ago. Where they're out to, I think they're nearly 10-1 tonight.
Wow!
Like if you said 5 years ago we're going to be 10-1 favourites against the Roosters going into a game, you'd think.
Well, in the AFL last night, I think Richmond last night in the AFL was similar against Carlton. So be careful. These are always worried. These are always those games that, obviously we should win it and we should win it well, but all it takes is a couple
names on paper.
They have. They have.
Yeah, there's still
and that'd be Ivan's message to them all this week. The minute you be complacent, and I don't think this Penrith team has been complacent in 4 years.
No,
that's the big difference. There's no egos in the team. There's no one you say, well, they tried to label us layers and with try celebrations a couple of years back, and that didn't get the media anywhere because youthful exuberance can't be contained, and that's all it was. So excited to win games, and Brisbane and Manly did it after tries on the weekend. We saw no one said anything about them. Melbourne did it after every try against the Eels on last Sunday. So yeah, look, it's tall poppy syndrome, and it's a real thing. People don't like seeing the same team win the competition 1, 2, 3, 4 years in a row. I wouldn't, if it wasn't Penrith, I wouldn't want to see it. It's we're just lucky we're Penrith fans, and
but it's getting to a point where maybe it's kind of fun. Like there's been something about this group that's just felt special and felt different. And you sit at these, like particularly at these grand finals, and you see them just keep doing it, and you think, like, why stop here? And I'm sure that there'd be plenty of fans of other teams that'd be ready to see someone else win. But in hindsight, we'll look at this like a Michael Jordan Bulls or a Tom Brady Patriots, where it's like, well,
definitely.
You look back at MJ and you think, oh, I wish he'd lost some of those final series. It was so boring. Then he won 3 in a row, and then he had a little break, and then he came back and he won another 3 in a row. Like, who wants to see that? But like in hindsight, you'll think, wow, like what an amazing thing to have been around for rugby league fans to be able to say they witnessed this. And I've got no doubt looking back at this, like Nathan and Isaiah and Dill and all these like core like nucleus players have been a part of all of them. Going to go down in rugby league folklore as just all-time greats, and we should just feel privileged that we're getting to watch it in firsthand.
Oh, and it's the young kids who being out here in Penrith, seeing the jerseys on kids and blokes mowing their lawn. You see them with a Penrith singlet on, and on the back of cars stickers. Like it's rampant. It's everywhere you look, and these kids who are 6, 7, 8, 9, and their first memories of footy are going to be Penrith winning 4 in a row, and you've got them forever. Because even if they're not Penrith fans, they'll go, well, I remember that team. They were fantastic. And since George in the 60s and 50s, they would have had another fan base because of how good they were. And everyone loves, a lot of people, you mentioned Michael Jordan. Well, a lot of people became Bulls supporters because of him and how good he was. The commercial side of the Penrith juggernaut is probably something to behold. I can only guess how their jersey sales and
it'd have to be good for the game.
It'd be massive for the game.
Yeah,
it'd be massive for the game.
Competitive balance is one thing, but having a team that delivers this, it brings new fans to your game. It brings new eyeballs to the game, and
no doubt
it couldn't be a bad thing for the NRL to have a team like this because, like you said, it probably. MJ would have brought a lot of fans to the Bulls. He would have brought a lot of fans to the NBA. Tiger Woods would have brought a lot of fans to golf because he was winning all the time, and people are attracted to success. And what this team's done now, I'm sure, 2 might have been probably annoying. 3, it's a three-peat, that's cool. But once you get to 4, chasing 5, it's sort of like, well, at some point you kind of just have to think, okay, well, let's see how long
Yeah,
we can keep doing it for.
yeah. That's just like, and as a kid doing it at the moment, one of my favourite sports to watch and play is darts. I love it. There's a young kid called Luke Littler
Mm-hmm.
who basically entered the
Was that
realms at 16.
16-year-old?
Yeah, he's now
Yeah.
18.
Yep.
He's won 5 majors this year. He's just um, yeah, like, and a lot of new fans are watching the darts because of him. You know, that all these new fans of darts, they've seen an unbelievable growth in their sport. And look at rugby league at the moment. The rugby league's just on a total roll. You know, it's all the acquisitions that Volandis and Abdo have purchased on behalf of the NRL to heighten their assets. It's just amazing. It's more than just Penrith. Obviously, we're talking about Penrith because this is a 5-year plan podcast about Penrith. But the game at the moment is, you know, I went through some. Obviously, the game in the '80s, late '80s, was fantastic. Tina Turner brought another echelon of excitement to the game when, you know, her 2 campaigns, when she, you know, what you get is what you see, and all the, you know, simply the best. And the game was really in a good spot then. And obviously in the mid-90s when Super League came along, it looked like we were in big trouble. You know, the game was split into 2, and I played rugby league in Perth. You know, there was other blokes played in Adelaide. That's what happened. That's you know, and then all of a sudden the game, I suppose, in the last 10 years is, and I think with the inclusion of someone like Peter Volandis, he's got to take a big pat in the back for this as well, to have the total doggedness to pursue greatness in our sport. You know, in COVID, which was, you know, obviously again 5 years ago, almost to the day that we were in lockdown. You know, Volandis, he found a way. There was 2 sports in the world that kept going in COVID. They were rugby league and horse racing, and one bloke controlled both of them, Peter Volandis. So him in control of our game, I have great confidence in. I think that he's a bloody doer, and what he does, he means, and he says. He's not just a bullshit artist who says stuff that we all want to hear. He's actually progressive in what he thinks, and I think that's fantastic for our game.
Yeah. The game's never been in a better place,
No.
and it's continually growing. Like I think there's a new TV deal being negotiated at the moment too, which is
For 27, isn't it?
yeah, which is only going to help all of this stuff. Like you look
Oh,
at like
the salary cap goes up. You know,
yeah,
so you can pay players more money, and you won't see anyone. You'll see players only going to the Super League now if they at the end of their career. Like for a while there, we saw players leaving at the middle of their career, or they go to union. But even someone like Kalen Ponga, who's on 1.5 or 1.4 mil a year, there was talk the other week about him wanting to go to union. I don't think they could pay him any more than 1.3 or 4. So why would you want to go to a game that has an extra 2 players in defence? And watching what he did last night against the Dolphins, man, he started the season on fire. And it's no coincidence that a lot of the fullbacks have. You know, Tommy Turbo last week was man of the match, and Pappenhausen was man of the match, and we've got young Jai Gray from South who looks like a prospect. I've never seen a stage of the last couple of years that the fullbacks have just been, you know, it's the premier position now. Everyone wants to play it because it's where once upon a time it was 6 or 7 with the fashionable numbers. Now it's number 1 because of I suppose the fitness you got to have for fullback, and the price tag, you know, on it as well, because there's not as many playmakers around as there once was, and all the playmakers from, you know, 5 or 10 years ago who have come through juniors want to play fullback because that's where the big money is. And you see juniors playing, most of the halves these days are shackled by not by expectations, by what their coaches are teaching them, and they're watching first grade, and it's affecting the junior ranks, I think, in a way. Well, I think we overcomplicate it with our kids. We've just got to let them play footy, chip over the top if you want, do a run around, you know, play what you see. But they've got them, you know, 4 hit ups for a kick, and some of the junior footy I've seen of late just is quite tedious. But let's hope that changes over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it seems like fullback. Every team has a great fullback now. Like
Yeah,
it's such a stacked position that it'd be tough to be an up and coming young fullback prospect because you look at a guy like Trebojevic is one of the better fullbacks we've probably had in the last 15, 20 years. He hasn't played a game of Origin at fullback yet because
no,
of how loaded the position's been. It's like
unbelievable.
he had a season like whatever that was 2, 3 years ago. It was one of the best statistical seasons in the history of the game, and
Unstoppable.
he hasn't had a chance to play his natural position at Origin level yet because of just how
No.
loaded that position is. And obviously,
Yep.
Dill's a big part of that. He kind of just became undeniable at Origin
No,
level
he's
with what he's been doing for Penrith for the last
so fit, so
5 years.
fit.
You couldn't deny him of the opportunity with just how he's just been flawless for basically for the last 4 years now, and every year just looked a little better than the year prior, and it just you couldn't deny him of it. But it just shows like the fact that we most years in Origin will have like 3 or 4 fullbacks on the team, and they're all just spread all over the field because there's not
Well,
enough,
you do.
there's not enough spots for how many great players are coming through that position. So yeah, it's cool, but I just don't think the game's ever been in a better position from a marketability standpoint, from a relevance thing. It probably does go back to COVID and Volandis. I'm sure there's no coincidence there, but I think Penrith would have to have a bit to do with it, and having a team like this, having a powerhouse that the game can promote. You get guys like Dylan Brown get to reap the benefits of what's happening at the moment. Obviously, that's big news this week. A 10-year deal.
Yeah,
Crazy. I don't know how many of these have panned out to be a good thing. It's awesome for Dylan. Like any player that can lock up that kind of security for themselves and their families is, I think it's a great thing for the players. It's a little reckless on the part of Newcastle, but it's it's awesome for the players. I'm not one of those guys that thinks, like when I hear people saying players are overpaid, I actually think NRL players are criminally underpaid for what they do, what they put their bodies through, how good they are at their thing. If you're in the top 0.1% of the thing you do in the world, you deserve to be paid accordingly. And a lot of people probably don't quite see that obviously our TV rights deals aren't going to be comparable to what you have overseas with the NBA, the NFL, where like you've got guys like LeBron James is a billionaire, and most of that's from his player earnings through his contracts. We don't have that level of interest
third parties.
for television and sponsors that we can pay our guys that kind of money. But when you see someone like Nathan, who is going to be an all-time great of our game, and he'll do well if he racks up 15 to 20 million career earnings from his contracts, and that's an average yearly salary for an NBA player.
That's right.
And that's not a good
Yeah.
NBA player. That's just a middle of the road
That's right.
NBA player.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about supply and demand, and you know what? How much is a player worth? As much as a club will pay him.
Yeah.
That's with is Dylan Brown worth 1.3? No, of course he's not. But that's what they paid for him, so he's worth it.
Yeah.
I don't begrudge anyone getting that money either, but I just think that now that I just hope he knows that every time he plays for Newcastle next year, that the pressure is on him.
Yeah.
He'd know that. He's aware of that, and if he's worth 1.3, then Nathan Cleary's worth 2.5. It's honestly, you've and Nathan really hasn't dominated Origin yet, in which he has been through injury mostly, that he hasn't had that opportunity. But once he starts dominating in Origin, which it's a fait accompli, then obviously the immortal is going to be an immortal. There's no doubt about that. But this always this argument about how good is he? Well, we'll see this year when he plays Origin and we win 3-0, because when you see him live at a ground, it's kind of even better to watch, because he's so subtle with his mannerisms. You can tell he's a student of the game. And his kicking game is just so astute that fullbacks must hate playing against him, or wingers, because they know that their 80 minutes in front of him is going to be fraught with danger because of the boot of Nathan Cleary. So, he's a fantastic role model for the game. There's a lot of good role models in our game. It's a game that it's given everything to me. It's, I'd be lost. I wouldn't be here without it. It's something that's, when I started playing at 5 years of age, 50 years ago, I didn't think one day that I'd be here watching a team that I played for win 4 comps in a row and playing in Las Vegas. And, it's just, it's a roller coaster, and it's good to be it's good to be on it with your, with the seatbelt firmly strapped in and just saying, click, clack, let's go. Let's enjoy the ride. I'm ready for it.
Big time. I had a little thought, call it a little game we'll play, but I just wanted to. The Dylan Brown thing had me digging through the archives a little bit.
Yep.
10-year deals are obviously rare. Like, not many people are giving out 10-year deals. Not many players
No.
get them. Like, I think the most recent one is probably Taumalolo or maybe Tino.
Yep.
Who, like, injury.
Tino would be the latest, but before that, Taumalolo's in about the 7th of his. DCE had one as well, I think.
So if we went back to 2015, 10 years ago from right now,
gee whiz,
who would you have given a 10-year contract to at Penrith? And this is in 2015. Obviously, we've got a bit of hindsight now that we can.
Look, if I quick,
I'll read you out the squad real quick.
I know the team. They've got Matty Moylan, Coruscant.
Yep. So we got a 24-year-old Matt Moylan.
Yep.
It was a young team.
Yeah.
We got a 20-year-old Wonga Blake, a 22-year-old Regan Campbell-Gillard, a 20-year-old Bryce Cartwright, a 24-year-old Adam Docker. Who else have we got on here? A 25-year-old Jamal Idris. Jamal Idris was 25 that year.
Wow.
I thought he was 40 that year.
Wow.
He was 25. Like, he was still a kid. He would have been one of the youngest guys on this squad, but he was 25. Yeah. Josh Mansour was 25. 22-year-old Appy Coruscant. 24-year-old Matty Moylan, 24-year-old Tyrone Peachy, 24-year-old James Seguiaro, 30-year-old Jamie Soward, 25-year-old Elijah Taylor, 20-year-old Dallin Watini-Zalesniak, 25-year-old Dean Vare, and a 20-year-old Isaiah Yeo. That's probably a lot of the sort of marquee names from that group.
Well, from that group, there's no one you'd give a 10-year contract to. Honestly, there isn't. There's maybe at the time, Matty Moylan showed something that might have.
That's who I think. If you had a mandatory 10-year deal that you had to give out to one of those guys,
probably be Matty Moylan.
It would have gone to Moylan. And this was 2015, I believe, was just before all that weird stuff happened with him and Hook, and he skipped a finals game. There was a bunch of weird stuff that happened. I think it was the 2016 season, and then he was off to Cronulla. But you look at. It just shows you how much happens in 10 years, and that's what made me think about that in terms of what they've given.
It's a lifetime.
Locked up to 2035, 2036, whatever it is.
Yeah.
How much changes then? You look at that squad. Like, I remember thinking with that team, this is the group that'll win us a comp.
Yeah, I know. If as a Penrith fan, you did. How many of the hierarchy of Newcastle will still be there when Dylan Brown finishes his contract?
They're not even thinking about that, are they? They're thinking about keep their jobs now and let someone else worry about that in 5 years.
How many of the Cowboys hierarchy who gave Taumalolo a 10-year deal are still there?
Yeah,
it's fraught with danger because it's such a ever-changing game.
And if you're going to give out a 10-year deal, like, you're giving out the richest deal in the history of the game. Is Dylan Brown the guy you spend it on? Like, you just think when you've got that kind of deal that it would have to be attractive to any free agent.
I think what it's done, it's given them a bit of a spotlight, and they haven't let the spotlight go out on them because this game they produced last night was showing that, well, the drama that come with the signing, excuse me, there is no drama because we as Newcastle, we welcome it because, obviously the money it's always going to be about the money. If he signed for 10 years for $800,000 a year, we wouldn't even be talking about it.
Yeah.
We'd just be saying, oh, well, that's good on Dylan Brown for doing that but the fact that they had to pay 1.3 a year with a ratchet, whatever a ratchet is, I thought a ratchet was in a toolbox. These ratchet clauses.
Is that in the deal? He gets like a gold-plated ratchet?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. But all I know is that the game never ceases to amaze. And if you told me at the start of this season, which was 2 weeks ago, that in 2 weeks' time, Dylan Brown's going to sign with the Knights for $13 million, I would have said, mate, go and get drug tested. But it's happened. It's happened. If you told me
the Melbourne game last week and thought someone on this team that's getting battered 48-0 at half time is getting a $13 million deal.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Only in rugby league.
Yeah.
Only in rugby league.
Crazy. All right, mate. You've been unreal. I want to get a bold prediction from you.
Yep.
Out of this season. Give me a bold prediction for the Penrith 2025 season.
I think Nathan will get his first LEM, and I think it's all about him this year. I think it's he'll have an injury-free season. He will lead the Blues, as I said, to 3-0, and he'll pick up his first LEM medal for his career. I just think the scene's set. He's such an unselfish player that those around him always shine, and I think it's time that he gets what is owed to him, and that's through hard work. I think he that blue jersey he'll make his own. Well, it was his even before his injuries, but and I think that he'll be anointed the best player in the game at the end of the season.
Would be fitting. It's
I think so.
It's an accolade that will be in his trophy case. It can't not. And this seems like the year that I think he's very focused on longevity and being around and being a part of all of it. He only played probably 10 to 12
14?
games last season. Yeah, exactly. Like it was regular season, I think maybe only 10, and then he would have played all the finals games. And yeah, I think...
and what he does, he protects the younger kids in the team as well. He's become like a protector. Obviously, having a younger brother, he's got that in him. And I think now that Jerome's gone, he'll take it upon himself to be the man. Not, sometimes through a game he could relax a bit, let Jerome take a couple of sets, and then go, okay, I'm back in the game now. But now it's him for 80 minutes. A lot of and Isaiah, a lot of the attack comes from both of them. But the full stop usually comes with Nathan Cleary.
Yep.
The end of the set. So as we saw against the Broncos in the grand final, that last 24 minutes, you write Penrith off at your own peril.
100%. Yeah, it's just mind-blowing. The Brisbane thing, more than anything, I think out of this whole run, that's probably the thing that you just...
That is. It is.
Like, I've probably rewatched that 50 times. Maybe, I don't even know.
Amazing.
Unreal. And every time, I get chills. Every time.
I get goosebumps thinking about it.
Every freaking time. All right, mate. Well, we've got one more exciting thing to talk a little bit about, which we announced this week, an exciting project we've been working on together for the last, how long has it been now? We've been working on it for a month or two. And
a couple of months, yeah.
Yeah, and it's really all coming together now. I don't know how much at this point we want to disclose, but obviously your new podcast series, Life in 5, launching on April 7th. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, Life in 5 is a concept that I came up with late last year when I thought about just different things, and I thought it'd be pretty cool to have guests into a studio, which is your studio at Manly, and they bring with them 5 photos that have defined their life in one way, shape or form, from their childhood, or it could be a sporting arena, it could be a relative that, and basically we just sit down and we talk about them 5 photos for about 30 minutes. It's short and sharp. We get to the chase, and I have loved the guests we've had so far. We've put a few in the bank. I can't wait for other people to see exactly how vulnerable people are when they talk about photos in their lives. They let their guard down, and they talk openly about the joys, the highs, the lows of people and incidents that have happened in their lives. And I think it's going to be one of them podcasts. It's different, and we've got a couple of good people behind us with Hertz and also restaurants as well. Thanks to Clay and Tomo for that. And you've been awesome in your studio there at Manly. It's what was probably the clincher when I saw how next door we've got 2 hours of free parking, mate, at Manly on the Corso.
Mate. That's all you need.
That was
2 hours of free parking in Manly. That's worth the price of a ticket on itself.
It is. Yeah, so, look, I know this is not about our podcast, but thanks for giving me the option to pump that up, and we'll see it on April 7 across all platforms. YouTube and Instagram and and where you get your podcasts. So looking forward to it,
It's
Sammy,
exciting
and looking
stuff,
forward
mate.
to.
We've had, some incredible conversations in there so far. Like you said, the guests have just been like how vulnerable some
Open.
people have been, how open they've been. Everything's just been so real, and that was really the whole premise of the show, right? Was just
Yeah,
having real conversations with people. They choose the stories, they choose the photos that we talk about, and from there we've had some really great guests. We've got more awesome guests lined up as well. And yeah,
we have.
April 7th. It's gonna be out in the world. And I'm just so excited to be part of it.
You're a big part of it, brother, and I couldn't have done it without you. And thank you
Appreciate that,
for
mate.
it. And,
No, thank you, and thanks for doing this. Thanks for being our first guest on the 5-year plan podcast. And up the Penny Panthers.
go the Panthers.
Go the Panthers.
Go you, brother.